Hello there, welcome to another video. As the little lore blurb at the start of the video has kind of briefed you, the main purpose of this video is to kind of ask a what if question and play out a specific scenario where the Freestar Collective's government body, the council, goes to its various ship manufacturers, that being Tayo, Stroud Eklund and Hopetech, and asking them to build 3 purpose vessels that they can kind of use as a kind of a research and development to determine whether or not the vessels would be capable of being used by a Freestar Navy. So the 3 vessels that we're going to be focusing on in this series is an A-class vessel that I've given the designation Corvette. Now the main kind of reasoning behind the Corvette vessel, the reason I would like to assume the Freestar Collective Council wanted an A-class vessel, the Corvette, is to kind of its main purpose is for light piracy protection and patrol missions. So it has to be a small, fast ship that has a very minimum crew, and it needs to possess weaponry that is kind of more akin to disabling vessels than fighting vessels or killing vessels, I suppose. Now the next vehicle they would like is a B-class vessel that I have given the designation Destroyer. And the main purpose behind the B-class vessel or the Destroyer is I imagine that the Freestar would like a sort of a kind of a something between not as big as a capital ship but a little bit bigger than a kind of a patrol vessel that can be used to engage larger kind of groups of pirates, and also kind of to act as a like kind of a troop deployment in essence. So kind of think like in the Halo universe, think of like the kind of the frigates almost, or in like the Star Wars universe, think of the kind of the what is it called, the kind of the Mon Calamari, the light cruisers, and the Corellian kind of corvettes and stuff. And then finally, with the C-class vessel, the Freestar Collective are hoping to get a new capital ship. Now the big difference between the capital ship and the other two is it's going to be a cruiser class, and its purpose is to basically be, like the title says, a capital ship. It needs to be large, it needs to be imposing, and it needs to be able to project the Freestar's power. So when you look at each of these ships, the different types, you're going to kind of see, obviously there's going to be a size difference, but you can also hopefully tell the different roles. So we're going to start off today by looking at the Hopetech's entry to the A-class vessel, the Corvette. So this is what I have came up with.
What can I do for you?
So the design is pretty loose when it comes to it. I wanted to, the main kind of constraints I gave between each vessel's type was that it has to be A-class. It has to use all A-class components. It has to be quite small. I didn't want it any bigger than around 20-ish meters because it's supposed to be quite small, obviously. And then it had a minimum crew size. So here it is. This is the Hopetech Corvette, their attempt at making a kind of an anti-piracy vessel. So as you can see with Hopetech, it was quite tricky making a vessel that looked kind of like a dedicated combat vessel, because Hopetech's pieces are very industrial, but I kind of went with that and I made use of the industrial pieces. Also, you'll notice with the Hopetech vessel, I kind of added cargo because I just imagine having a conversation between the engineers at Hopetech and me we need a combat vessel, and they're we can do that. You need space for cargo, right? And then me not really. And they're well, it comes free with the ship, and they're well, okay, give us cargo. So as you can see, it's kind of a stubby vessel. I made use of those piping on the top just to kind of act as an excess armor, because Hopetech don't have any armor pieces, which is kind of infuriating. So let's look at the stats. So it's got a fuel of 200, which that was kind of the entry level. When I normally do ship reviews, I kind of always say 200 is good, but with this one specifically, I aimed for 200 because I feel like that's enough for a vessel that's not really going to be going long distance. These Corvettes very rarely leave their designated system, and they usually have in the system they're patrolling, they would have some way to refuel and rearm, be it a land-based installation or a larger kind of outpost / star station. So for the hull, it's got 905, which is quite decent. That is obviously because we're using the best of the A-class modules. Now that level of hull is, I want to say that's pretty much up there as like one of the better ones out of the three I've designed. Its cargo capacity is 710. Now, cargo capacity doesn't matter a whole lot because, like, these are meant to be dedicated combat vessels, but it is handy having a little bit extra cargo. So, like, this ship, the Corvette Hopetech one, could theoretically be used to, like, ferry supplies to, like, a planet surface or, like, to, like, a fleet, but obviously that's not its main purpose. Stat-wise, it's got that A-class reactor with 29 power. Now, with these ships, I made them all specifically at the main headquarters of each faction, so I only used what was at my disposal. So for instance, for the A-class, we went with the, I believe that is the Tokamak reactor. I'm trying to see if I can find it. It's there somewhere. Yeah, it is. You can see it there just behind the engines. That is obviously not the best A-class reactor, but that was the best one that Hopetech had available. So it has a crew of 5, which, again, that's quite high, but that's, you know, that is quite high for an A-class vessel. But I was kind of seeing this more akin to like having like maybe like a max crew of like 3 or 4. You've got your pilot, and then you've got like your co-pilot, and then maybe having like 2 kind of like armed like Freestar. I don't want to say Rangers because I know that the organization of the Freestar, it's not really the same. But, I mean, you could kind of stretch it a little bit and say there's some, like, Rangers on board that could be used in boarding action and defense of the vessel. It's got a jump range of 26 light years, which, again, this is the best I could get. But that's not really a huge issue with this vessel because, like I said, this vessel very rarely will leave its system. It just kind of hops between the celestial bodies in the system. If it did need to make a jump, it could be modified or attached to a larger vessel. It's got a shield of 730, which, again, that's not a bad shield. Now, the shield is merged. I will say, this is probably saying this, like, what are we? We're like 7 minutes, probably 10 minutes in at this point. And I'm already saying this, so I do apologize. But this, on all of the vessels, will be using merge techniques, the merge glitch, to basically make things more streamlined. If you're not a fan of that, I do apologize. I probably should have said that at the start. But I don't think it's too much of an issue. And then for weaponry, I went with the pretty simple weaponry. We have some laser weapons, some ballistic weapons, and then the EM weapon. The EM weapon is kind of like a necessity on these Corvettes just because their main purpose is anti-piracy, and sometimes you might have to disable vessels and board them to do checks. So it's got those 2 lasers and the 2 weapons there. So the price to make this was 154,000 credits. Now that could vary slightly because of the perks I have. About 180, I'd say. Let's take a look at it. So as you can see here, it's got a quite interesting look to it. I went with the if you see here the little kind of these engines, they kind of rotate. They have like a little I don't know if you can see it in here. They have like the ability to kind of like swivel, and I quite like the idea of using these because I feel like Hopetech vessels are kind of like, they make use of a lot of like vertical takeoff, like VTOL engines basically. And then I went with these small little White Wolf engines on the back just for kind of extra boost. So let's go inside and check it out. Got those big Hopetech landing gear. Now there's very little to this interior. Like I said, it's all Hopetech, but it's, you know, it's pretty decent all the same. So inside we have the control station, just because it's kind of a necessity. Like obviously this has like more slots than necessary. Ideally what I would have done here is I would have put in a if possible I would have put like some sort of a kind of like a troop bay or like a kind of a cargo area, just for you to like kind of, you know, like to hold your excess gear and stuff. And then back here past here we have the armory. This is for storing any of the illicit weapons we find when we are doing our patrols. And also we have a 2-slot brig there for if we need to imprison someone. We've got the docking port here at the front. And then if we go up top, I made use of the Hopetech kind of these like fuselage pieces just because I think they look quite cool. And then we have your typical Hopetech bridge, the Armstrong bridge with the, got your co-pilot seat and your navigator there. So we're going to take it off and show you how she performs, and then we're going to do a little teardown. So up we go. Let's take her off. So obviously, because this is using the best A-class stuff we have available, but it doesn't have everything. There's going to be like kind of, you don't have the best amount of power. And I obviously have a perk that increases my power by 5. So like the power management's going to be a bit iffy. But then like the purpose of these vessels, like I said, they're more for like a lower point of view. So we're going to obviously put we're going to fill up all of our points into the engines. I'm going to pull the laser and ballistics down a bit, like so. Right, so weaponry, like I was saying, we've got those dual lasers there that can be used for disabling craft's shields. We've got the ballistic weapons where if we do have to, like sadly, if we have to engage and destroy an enemy vessel, like if it's not responding and it's trying to outrun and maybe doing something a bit sketchy. And then we have that EM launcher if you do need to disable things passively. And then for our speed, we have a base speed. It's going to be 150 because we're using A-class engines. And then the boost speed of 590 it's kind of sitting at, which isn't too bad. Now with the agility, we're going to do a quick pitch test. All of these A-class vessels, I made the Corvettes, I call them, are all going to be quite agile. I believe they have 100 mobility, as you can see there, the yaw and the roll. It's all extremely fast. We're going to head down to the planet and we're going to do a teardown, and I'll show you how you build it. Alright, so here we are in the teardown. So on the top here, we have the Armstrong 20R cockpit from Hopetech, 260 cargo, 2 crew space. Behind that we have the Hopetech companionway fuselage B. We've got the Supaku 250 GC suppressor from Shinigami, A-class, 1040 range, 1.5 fire rate, 54 electro damage, and 6 power. And then we have 2 of these Hopetech Pipe A mids, and then we have a Hopetech Pipe aft. Now on the back here that would sit underneath those pipes, we have the Tokamak X300 reactor from Xi'an, A-class, 29 power, 45 health, and 820 hull, which is pretty decent. We've got 2 of these White Dwarf 2030 engines from Relodyne, A-class, 3 max power, 13,020 engine thrust, 2,700 maneuvering thrust. And then behind that we have the R4000 Alpha Grav Drive from Relodyne, A-class, 9 power, 27 jump thrust, which in the current config gives us 26. And then we have the Hopetech Nose B aft at the back there. The middle of the vessel, we have at the front here the Hopetech 11 Docker 4. We have the Hopetech Armory 2x1. Mounted on each side of the Hopetech Armory front, we have 2 of these Horizon weapon mounts with a Singe 4 megawatt pulse laser from Lightsight, A-class, 1625 range, 3.49 fire rate, 22 shield damage, and 4 power. And they're both mounted on the top of the weapon mount. And then on the bottom, we have 2 KE-20A autocannons from Ballistic Solutions Incorporated, A-class, 1040 range, 6.65 fire rate, 12 hull damage, and 3 power. Behind that, we have 2 Caravel V101 cargo holds from Protector Systems, 225 each because Hopetech, why not? And then at the back, we have the Hopetech Control Station 2x1. We have 2 M30 Ulysses Helium-3 tanks that give 100 fuel each. We have 2 White Dwarf 1020 engines from Relodyne, A-class, 3 power, 8850 engine thrust, 2625 maneuvering thrust. And then we have the Bastille S84 shield generator from Nautilus, A-class, 7 power, 730 shield. And then finally on the bottom, we have the Hope 4 landing bay from Hopetech. We have 2 of these Hope 6 landing gear, starboard aft and port aft. There's different variants of these. I went with the ones that are facing backwards. And then we have the Hope 5 landing gear. So to put it all together, you basically want to do this. So you start off with it like that, the cockpit, the companionway, 2 of the pipes and that there. And then next what you want to do is you basically want to connect your White Dwarfs to the Tokamak reactor. And then you would slot that like so, there. And then next what you want to do is you basically want to slot this on top like so. Now you'll notice where I put the shield generator, you can't actually slot that in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to slot it all in first like so. And then for the shield generator, there is a snap point in there that you can see. It's kind of tricky to get to. So basically what we're going to do to get the snap point in there working properly, we're going to move these pipes very briefly. And we're going to move this grav drive. You place the shield generator there like so. And then you snap the grav drive to the pipe above. And then you duplicate the grav drive. And when you duplicate the grav drive, it drops it down. And then you have that merged inside. And then you just put the pipes back like so. And then finally on the bottom here, you're just going to grab these. And these basically sit under here like so. But obviously they're not going to want to fit flush because, you know. So we'll snap this here. That basically sits under like that. And then this landing gear at the front will snap to the front section like that. And then these pieces, they snap to the cargo bay. You just have to do a simple press Y to duplicate or to flip them like so. And then you do the exact same thing on the other side. You flip them and flip them like so. And then that's it. And then I have the weapons set up as the primary weapons is the laser, secondary autocannons, and tertiary is the suppressor. So that's the Hopetech Corvette. Now, I know some of you guys might be thinking, anyone that's a bit of a sci-fi nerd or kind of a naval nerd might think, like, it doesn't really look like a Corvette. And to be honest, it doesn't. The way Starfield kind of does their ships, it's kind of tricky to make, like, accurate ships, because, like, a modern-day Corvette would probably house upwards of 100 crew, maybe, depending on the Corvette. And in the sci-fi universes, like if you look at the Expanse or like Halo, like Corvettes still have a lot of people. But I felt like calling it a Corvette in the Starfield universe because I feel like it fits with the tone. Because in Starfield universe, there's no like dedicated fighters, you know, like small single-seat fighters. So like this, the kind of the smallest large ship you can make would be like a Corvette. But yeah, that was part 1 of the Corvettes. We will be covering in the next episodes, we will be covering the Stroud-Eklund's attempt at making a Corvette, and then Tayo's attempt. And then after that, we will be focusing on the B-class destroyer and the C-class cruiser. So as always, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think. And just in general, like with regards to like the lore and stuff of what I've said, like how do you guys like think the Freestar Collective would go, just like without like looking at the ships, like which one? Because I kind of assumed that they would have, like, by default they would use Hopetech, because, you know, Hopetech are kind of, well, Ron Hope's on the council. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the ship. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye.